Today, we're diving into something pretty incredible, the linguistic diversity of Nepal. It's a country that's facing a quiet but really profound crisis. And thanks to some brand new census data, we're going to explore the story of language, identity, and what happens when a voice is on the very edge of going silent for good.
So let's start with just a single number, 124.
That's how many distinct languages are spoken in Nepal. Now, just to give you some perspective, the entire country is smaller than the state of Illinois. So what we're talking about here is one of the most densely packed, linguistically rich places on the entire planet. Yeah, this kind of density makes Nepal a true global hotspot for languages. It's like a modern-day tower of tongues. So let's take a closer look at what the breakdown of all these languages actually tells us. Okay, so this chart from the 2021 census gives us the big picture. And you can see right away, two language families just dominate. You've got over 78% of people who identify with an Indo-European language, like Nepali, and then about 21% trace their roots to the Sino-Tibetan family. All the others, well, they make up less than 0.5% combined. But here is where it gets really interesting. The Sino-Tibetan family, it actually has more individual languages, a whopping 72 of them. Yet the Indo-European family, with way fewer languages, has way more speakers. And that difference, that gap, is our first major clue that a huge silent shift is underway, with entire communities moving away from their ancestral languages. You know, to really get what this shift feels like, we have to put a human face on all this data. So we're going to zoom in from the big picture of millions of people to the story of just one person. Her story tells us everything about the fate of these languages. It's a heavy question, right? How does something that has taken maybe thousands of years to evolve just die? Well, the answer is usually not with a bang, but with a whisper. It often dies quietly with its final speaker. And to understand the full weight of this, we need to talk about something called a language isolate. It's basically a linguistic orphan. It has no known relatives, no sister languages, nothing. It's a complete mystery, the last of its kind. And in Nepal, that language is called Kasunda. And this is Kamala Sankhatri. As of last year, she is the only person on Earth known to be a fully fluent speaker of the Kasunda language. Just think about that. The survival of an entire worldview, a unique piece of our human story, rests on her shoulders. She puts it more powerfully than anyone ever could. She said, "If I die, then my mother language dies with me too." I mean, can you imagine carrying that weight, that responsibility every single day? This is the human cost of language extinction right here. But this isn't just a story about loss. It's also an incredible story of defiance. Kamala is not letting her language just fade away. She's fighting back. She started a small school, and she's teaching Kasunda to more than 20 kids, giving her ancestral tongue a fighting chance at a future. Stories just like Kamala's are exactly why Nepal's 2021 census did something brilliant. For the very first time, they tried to count not just the languages people actively speak, but also the ghosts of languages, the ones that live on in a community's identity. It's a whole new way of seeing the scale of the problem. And they did this by asking about a person's ancestral language. So what's that? It's the language of your heritage, the one your grandparents spoke, even if you don't speak it yourself. You could almost think of it as the language of your heart, even if it's not the one on your tongue. The whole setup was so simple, but it was absolutely revolutionary. By asking these three questions about your mother tongue, your ancestral language, and your second language, the census could finally measure the gap between cultural identity and actual daily use. This lets us see not just which languages are spoken, but which ones are really in danger. So what did this new approach actually show? Well, the results paint a really stark picture of a country right in the middle of a massive silent linguistic shift. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. Take a look at the Bujel language. You've got about 13,000 people who speak it as their mother tongue. But look at the right, over 38,000 people, nearly 3 times as many, say it's their ancestral language. That gap is the story. It shows that so many people who feel Bujel no longer speak Bujel. And you see the exact same pattern with the Thakali language. This is what language shift looks like in real numbers. Of course, this didn't just happen out of nowhere.
Government policy played a huge part. It really started back in the 18th century, but it kicked into high gear in the 1960s when the government pushed this idea of one language, one culture, all centered on Nepali. For decades, indigenous languages were actively suppressed in schools and public life. It wasn't until 1990, with the restoration of democracy, that things started to change, and other languages were even officially recognized.
So here's the bottom line. Why does any of this matter? I mean, they're just words, right? Well, no. When a language disappears, we lose so much more than just a way to communicate. We lose a piece of our shared human story.
See, every single language is its own unique way of seeing the world. It's a lens. Think about all the cultural knowledge that's tied up in a language. Knowledge about local plants and animals, history, poetry, music. It's the very DNA of a culture. When that language fades, that direct link to the past is severed forever. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty sobering thought. The story of Nepal's fading voices, it's happening all over the world. So if every language is truly its own unique world, how many of those worlds are we as a global community just willing to let disappear?